What is up, the Steem blockchain? So today I want to talk a little bit about a post. This video is inspired by Indigo Ocean that wrote a great post basically talking a little bit about three different money cultures that we're sort of seeing in the world. So this is the post right here, and I want to make a response here a little bit. So it was basically talking about, okay, three different money cultures, and one was called the cowboy culture, basically something physical, let's say oil, silver, gold, something that you can hold, something that you can trade in hand to someone else. And then you have another culture, the banker culture, that has been running things the last sort of 100 years. Obviously, they were probably bankers before that also, but to simplify it a little bit, they have really been a big force the last 100 years. So, and then we do have this new culture, which is the crypto crowd. And so the idea is that these may battle it out here in the future. And I want to give my input on this, basically that clearly what is needed for a world with billions of humans is something that everyone can use, something that everyone can trade, something that's liquid, something that everyone can have access easy to, something that people can, share around in a very, very easy way. It needs to be something something digital, clearly. It needs to be something that everyone has access to, high liquidity, and it just needs to be easy. And if you take a look at so banks, they use, or our whole main economic system is using fiat currencies. And even when we have the US dollar and we have euro and all these currencies, we can see that it is very, very hard to move this value around when it comes to people from other countries. If you want to share some value to someone else in another place, another country, it's not really ideal to have that everyone has these centralized banks. And if you're trying to send something to someone that is on the internet, you sort of need their bank account, and it's like a central place where they are living. It doesn't really make any sense. I mean, clearly these new technologies we're starting to see pop up, clearly they're making stuff easier by, I mean, we have these smartphones now, and these big smartphones that we're using right now, that most people are using, they came out in 2012 with the Galaxy. You can say maybe even late 2011, but that is when it really started to happen. These bigger smartphones that basically allows you to experience the internet in a much more personal way, in that you're holding it in your hand, you have a fully functional device. That only started to happen around 2012 with 4.3-inch displays, and basically we are on that journey right now. And right now we are 6 or 7 years later into this, and now we're really starting to see this, that you're starting to see I see all of these apps coming up with wallets, and it's like, okay, so now I can have my wallet, my bank, let's say, in my smartphone, right? I don't need this big building anymore. So for me, when I look at this, it's very clear that the crypto crowd is going to win this one out, and that everything is going to be tokenized. The reason is because it is just easier. It's easier and faster, and it's more efficient. And if everyone had one digital token or something that everyone in the whole world could use, imagine the amount of more business opportunities that would create, where people can network in a much more effective way by leveraging other humans. So the main thing with the way I see the banking culture is it was mainly about, ROI with just creating value or borrow stuff out. But it seems as with these new systems, instead of having to borrow stuff, the way it can work is you empower the human first, and you give them a lot of value, and if you implement them in an ecosystem where is the incentive basically to share value around? Well, the incentive clearly is that you leverage trust and relationships. You're giving away, let's say, tokens to get something more valuable in return, trust and relationships, and leverage that. Clearly leverage trust and relationships, human brains. Clearly that is worth more than tokens, than fiat money, than anything really. Because a brain, if we're gonna take a look at it, like, how much is a brain worth in nature? I mean, it must be at least $10,000 or something like that. And earning the trust from one brain, that can take months, that can take years. That takes a lot of sacrifice. But once you earn the trust from one brain, it's like at least $10,000, right? You share around these tokens, and you get way more in return when you actually did the real job. Now, if I take, for example, fiat money, if I'm going to send this to someone else on the internet, it's pretty hard. It is very hard because, first of all, they are barely authority over their own digital value, because it goes into a bank, and people really do not know what is going on there, right? They don't. And there's basically too much. Many of these systems that was in place, I mean, they were decent for the time being. They were decent probably like 50 years ago. I mean, pretty good stuff for that time. But once you get this mega powerful technology that everyone has right now, and powerful codes, programmers, developers that doing these amazing things that simplifies people's life and just makes everything run more efficient. When you get this stuff out, it's like, it doesn't make any sense. And it doesn't even make any sense to modernize the old system. The best thing is just to scrap it all and tokenize everything, and just make everything simpler. Now, we are already seeing abundance. We're seeing abundance in many, but it's mainly hard physical ways we see abundance. For example, if we go into a supermarket, we see, we basically see the wealth in there. I mean, we see how much it is of everything in that store, right? We see how many products, how much food. I mean, you can see clearly that everything's very, very abundant. If you go out on the street, you can see a lot of cars, and how much it took to create just one car. And you see abundance, right? You see the abundance in a physical way. You can see a lot of abundance. If you go and buy something, maybe you get glass bottles or something like that, but use the glass to make a bottle. I mean, that we have access to so much physical stuff, basically. I mean, it shows that we already sort of reached abundance in many ways, but we haven't made digital abundance a big reality. But it clearly is going to happen if you throw everyone together in the same ecosystem, so everyone is being a part of a massive network. The more energy this network gets, the more value it has, and the more value it can give out. Because one person can give so much. That is basically why this whole system works. That most of the time, when humans are not feeling super empowered, they're not really having the ability to create the amount of value that they ideally could do if you did have this massive system where everyone is working together in the same system. But I feel that for this system to take over, I mean, it needs to be a complete paradigm shift happen in how people look at value, and also how businesses produce value, because it seems as if the idea of a return on investment is going to be an ancient concept in the future. That, I mean, these machines that we have, smartphones, computers, they're giving us so much value already, and it's almost free, like the value that we're getting. Which means that even if a person would start a business, like there's really not that much point, because people are already getting so much overabundance of value, basically. So the idea of businesses starting, it doesn't really make any sense to use a slow banking system, right? If they instead just made some token and they just had some inflation system, that means that they can constantly get value, creating new value in the system. So instead of just having one guy do this, as the banks, they were like the main guy, main authority, main monopoly of creating value. If everyone can do it, then you probably get a more efficient system, because you can have more eyes on what is going on, and more people observing something, then everyone can, the systems can get more input of what is the ideal system here that should be used, and then there would really be no need to raise any money, because you're creating your own value already in a digital form. And right now we're only like 2 years into these, especially these graphene based blockchains, so we really have no idea what this is really. We're starting to see next year more people are going to be able to create their own tokens, which will allow for even more experimentation. But obviously this all is very, very early experimentation. Imagine this in 5 to 10 years down the line, how it may be. There is clearly a lot of changes going on, but I really do not see how bankers can have a role in this new system. I really don't. They can if they create some amazing token-based system, clearly, that can rival the other token-based systems, but how the market goes is you need to give more and more value to the end consumer, or they're going to go to some other place that basically offer them more value in return. So it's going to be competitive for sure. So it is interesting. For example, when I saw Steam send value in 3 seconds, it was like, that was a paradigm shift for me, because it's just so much better. It's like 10x or even maybe even 100x better than the older system. So we all value our time. We want more time. So we want services that send things faster, right? Who has time to wait a couple of days for something? It really makes no sense. And you also have this thing of, well, you sort of know that the value of the fiat currencies are kind of going to stay the same. So no exciting thing is going to happen really. If the network grows, if more people are using fiat, I mean, it's not really going to grow that much in value, right? Because there's so much, it seems at least to be so much printing going on that basically devalues a lot of things. So yeah, the crypto crowd, the digital crowd, everything's going digital, clearly. And I'm not even sure if we are going to use digital tokens in the future if we reach a level of abundance where we have so much and where we have so efficient system that we can just laugh at sending some small things around. I don't really know, to be honest, but I do know that when you do make an ideal efficient system, whoa, the abundance that we're talking about, it's going to be crazy. When you make everything liquid form, when you can be an owner in anything like parts, that creates massive incentive for networks to grow even more. And I really don't think that a lot of these networks, I sort of feel that many people try to look at it in a mega logical way, and the logical mind, it can only work on like limited data. And I sort of see that, or I feel that the place where all this is going, it's a paradigm shift for sure, and that's pretty hard for people to grasp. For example, in the crypto crowd, you cannot see anyone that is thinking beyond a year. So that's pretty funny to consider, that there's not really that many people that think the long-term aspect, because I think it would maybe make their brain go a bit crazy. But yeah, this is a great article, by the way, and I especially enjoyed, let's see, it's a great article. You should read it. Oh yeah, this was the thing I'm gonna quote here. Meanwhile, crypto is emerging. I believe that's because it has the force of evolution behind it. It will be unstoppable. But the question still remains as to whether the tribe will be able to join forces with the cowboy tribe to supplant the bankers, or whether the bankers will co-opt the technology of the crypto crowd to make their current approach even more effective at moving money from working to investment class, or whatever the cowboys will consider the crypto crowd their biggest threat, or join forces with the bankers to try to stamp it out. I mean, I sort of feel that in many ways this is basically a test of humans. So I really never understood this desire for massive wealth. Like, I understand, like, to have for, I don't know, to live, but after a certain point I don't really get it. Like, I think that in many ways that maybe we can only succeed in building these systems if people totally shift into from hoarding mode to 100% giving mode. That might sound a bit extreme, but I don't really see it. I mean, if abundance truly is coming, then truly none of this will matter eventually. But it's going to be interesting to see what the new value system is going to be. If people have big access to so much stuff, what then they are going to do, basically. I think we might see a split in humans, basically, into two directions, and one is basically going to be about, I mean, we're probably going to see some superhumans, and then probably going to see some extreme scarcity kind of culture starting to happen, even though it's not going to make any rational sense. But maybe they're going to do it because they just can't stand seeing so much abundance right in their eyes. And this is something that we already see right now, with that a lot of people are finding it just is too much awesomeness. There's just too much going on. So it's going to be interesting to see how consciousness is going to evolve. But and yeah, especially what humans are going to value, especially when you cannot impress people with physical stuff because everyone else can get it. It's going to be interesting to see what perhaps new status game can be, what can evolve, basically. So yeah, quickly a video talking a little bit here about this. Hopefully enjoyed. Steem blockchain. Have a great day, everyone.